Hi everyone, I'd like to teach an important concept to you in the field of genetics called epistasis. Epistasis is the name given to a type of inheritance when multiple genes affect the same characteristic. A characteristic like eye color, for example, is called a phenotype in genetics, whereas the combination of genes that determine the eye color would be called a genotype. I want to explain an example I've created to help demonstrate this concept of epistasis. So the trait or characteristic I want to talk about is hair type and hair color. Let's imagine that there's just one gene that affects if a person would have straight hair or curly hair, and we'll call that gene A, as you can see here. Hair type can be either straight or curly. Now let's imagine that gene B controls hair color, and that can either be blonde or brown, as I've shown here below. So here's where epistasis comes in. If you have straight hair, we'll say that you could have either blonde or brown hair. But if you have curly hair, you must have brown hair. It's impossible to have curly and blonde hair. So in this case, the hair type affects the hair color, and the two genes work together to control what a person's hair would look like. So let's dig a little deeper into this concept of genotypes for a minute. We'll say that genes controlling hair work in a dominant recessive fashion, meaning that there are two parts of this gene which are designated by a capital letter for the dominant aspect or a lowercase letter to represent a recessive aspect to that gene. So for gene A, the combination of a person's hair could either be capital A, giving them straight hair. It could be capital A, lowercase a, giving them also straight hair, or it could be lowercase a, and that would produce curly hair. So the recessive trait, curly hair in this case, would be controlled by the lowercase a's, which can be dominated by the straight hair trait, which is capital A's. The B gene will work in the exact same fashion. Capital B will produce blonde hair, capital B, lowercase b will produce blonde hair also, and lowercase b will produce brown hair. But remember, the epistasis is affecting hair color in this example. So if a person has the AA genotype, lowercase a, they will always have brown hair regardless of the genotype for the B gene. So the curly hair will always equal brown hair. So this type of epistasis is called recessive epistasis. And that's because if the A gene has a recessive genotype, then the B gene's genotype will not matter for determining the person's hair color. So to help demonstrate this concept, I've created an example here of two parents and their potential offspring, shown in this chart. So as you can see, both parents have straight blonde hair, and they have the genotype capital A, capital B, lowercase b. And you can see on the chart on the right what different genotypes would show for their characteristics. So I want you to notice that in this lower right-hand corner of the chart, all of the offspring would have curly brown hair because of recessive epistasis. These individuals have curly hair from the AA, lowercase a designation, and therefore must have brown hair regardless of their B genotype. So the ratios of characteristics we would expect to see from this cross would be 9 individuals with straight blonde hair, 3 individuals with straight brown hair, 3 individuals with curly brown hair, and another individual with curly brown hair. So 3 and 1 makes 4, so the total ratios would be 9 to 3 to 4. I have one other example, but this time one parent will have the capital A, capital B genotype, meaning they're straight blonde, and the other parent has lowercase a, capital B, lowercase b, meaning that they're curly brown. So this example is interesting because, as you can see, half of the potential offspring would end up with curly brown hair, and the other half would all end up with straight blonde hair, as I've illustrated here below. So there would be no individuals with straight brown hair because the capital A and then any other A designation, lowercase b genotype never actually occurred in this whole chart. This was a brief introduction to epistasis and recessive epistasis in particular. I hope you enjoyed.